evening, everybody, and welcome to another Workbench Wednesday. It's been a short while since we've done one of these here at the Workbench, especially one by myself. We're getting into that time of the year where everyone's starting to get drawn into other activities, and we're all no different here at Lionel. We want to have got a fun little topic tonight as we head into the summer months, and then some great announcements and some things to talk about before we wrap it up. This is something that we've had some requests for over the last couple of years, and that is how you can improve locomotive or rolling stock models and add details and simple enhancements. We're not really going to get into weathering tonight. We're not going to get into anything major surgery, but I've got a couple of models in front here that I've been working on. One I'm about to start on, one that's about finished, and one that's sort of in between, and show you some of the easy things you can do. Now, I've got HO models in front of me here tonight because they fit better on my workbench at home. But what I'm going to show you tonight works in pretty much every scale and any type of locomotive. It's not specific to one specific model. And I think where you'll find some of these skills very helpful is coming at this from a model manufacturer's perspective. We do the best we can to make as many different models as possible, but we'll never ever be able to satisfy every individual's exact needs for what you want on your model railroad. And locomotives are a great place to look at this, because even when you take something as seemingly simple as a single locomotive prototype, there are a lot of variations on those models from one railroad to the next, from one build year to the next. And then even once they're delivered, the variations can continue. Engines are sometimes go through a major overhaul, a major rebuild. They can be repainted. They can even just have some minor subtle detail changes on them. And sometimes those are very minor, and sometimes they're just distinctive enough that you really want to capture it and help put that piece of equipment in the right time and place for your layout and your vision of what you're doing on your model railroad. So if you've got a few of these simple techniques in your pocket, you don't have to wait for the exact same version of what you want to come out. You can make a few simple switches and techniques and tricks to these models and customize them and make them your own. So that if there's something that's pretty close but not quite the way you want it, you can make these easy changes and get what you want without having to wait for a model that might never arrive straight out the box and manufacture. And plus, these are fun evening or two projects that help enhance your models, make them a little bit different from the ones that come straight out the box, and allow you to add your own personal touch to what you're doing. So what we're going to look at tonight are some B40-8 models for Conrail. My personal interest is modeling Conrail between about 1994 and 1996. And Conrail had about 27, I think, of these locomotives, 27, 28 of these locomotives. And they didn't change a whole lot from delivery to transfer to Norfolk Southern and CSX. But there were a few little detail changes that make them, that set them apart in the early to mid 90s from the way they would have looked right out of the shop in the mid 80s when they were delivered. The last couple of these that I picked up were made by the manufacturer, in this case Atlas, is in the as-delivered version, which is great. If I were modeling 1985 instead of 1995, I probably wouldn't do anything to these. But to bring them up to date, there's a couple little things that I wanted to do to customize. So we'll start off here. I'll show you out-of-the-box model, and a lot of what we're going to be doing is here at the front end. And you can see the basic no-frills nose of a GE standard cab -8 locomotive, boxy and square and bare bones. Completed model, I've made a few changes to it. The most noticeable one here is this big label on the front. This was the labor management decal that this entire class of models got on Conrail, I think about 2 years or so after they were delivered. And it was a special employee management program that Conrail wanted to acknowledge on what was at the time some of their newest locomotives. So that's a quick and easy change that we're going to do first with a decal. You don't have to remove any lettering to add this one. It was a nice just really easy add. So we'll talk a little bit about decal decaling. The next thing you'll see changing is you see the long grab irons on the nose, these two 90-degree angled grab irons. Those were added also in, I want to say, if I remember my research right, around 1987 to 89. Certainly by 94, 95, you see them pretty much on everything. As delivered, there's just a small grab iron here in the center. So we're going to be pulling that detail off and making some new wire grab irons to put on the noses of these and bring them further modern. With the exception of ditch lights that were added right around my time frame, that's pretty much the bulk of what changed on these models over the years. And so I don't have to do a whole lot to these to bring them a decade more modern, which is really great. Atlas has done them with the labor management decal in the past, and others have done that model as well, but I like a big fleet of locomotives, so I wanted a few more, and these are easy changes to make. We're going to do one more thing tonight, and this works for pretty much any model, and it's a really fun and easy one to do, and that is we're going to darken in some of the air intakes and louvers. As delivered here, these are just painted the same blue as the car body. The detail's great, but you don't get a whole lot of relief off of it. We're going to be doing a weathering wash on that with some inks, special washes, and that will darken them a little bit. Here's the darkened version. You can see what a difference that makes, and really helps pop out the detail on your model. The first one that's been completed, I went with, I didn't have the ink washes, and just went with black paint. It works as well, but I've come to really like the wash look better. It doesn't look as thick. You get a better compromise. This one's also been weathered a little bit, but we're not going to go that far tonight. That's topics for other meetings for sure. All right, so that's what's on the agenda. We're going to start with a decal. Maybe we'll probably do the washes after that, and then get on into the fussiness of adding wire grab irons. All right, adding the decal to the nose is a pretty straightforward process. This is the same no matter what you've decaled before. We've done decaling here in the past, but we'll start fresh on this one just so you have a good clean example to start from. First thing I want to do is brush all my little bits out of the way, so I've got a relatively clean workspace to work on. For those of you who've ever met me, you can see here this little 4x6 inch clear space on my workbench. That's usually about what I have left to work in. That doesn't matter how much space I have. I always seem to end up working in about half a square foot of free space to do my modeling. So if you're a clutter hound like me, don't feel bad. You're still allowed in the model railroad hobby. And for those of you who are neat freaks, I'm sorry. This is probably driving you nuts. I'm going to start with a decal sheet, and we're going to make a few cuts here. Cut out this one decal that we want. There's lots on here that we won't need. We'll save those for later and other projects. I've got two of these decals on here, which means I can either screw up one and still be okay, or buy another -8. Let's hope I don't screw up one. When you're trimming the decals, you want to get as close to the edge of the print as possible and make nice straight cuts. And there we go. We'll get that out of the way so I have my whole gigantic workspace to work from here again. And bring in the ever-present on the workbench cup of water. We're starting with decals first. That way, if I have to clean brushes later, I can use the same water. Just got myself a fresh batch of water here. All right, we're going to drop that in there and let that set for a second or two while that water activates the backing, the adhesive, and then we'll be able to slide that right off the back. I'm going to put the decal on the nose of this unit. I'm going to do it before I take off this grab iron. Now, that's a little bit risky because it gives me a better chance of scratching that decal off once I go in to pull the grab iron out. But on the other hand, the holes, I want to save the holes for that from the old grab iron to put the new ones on, and I don't want to cover those with the decal. So the easiest way to do that is to leave the old one in place and then try and carefully work around it, the decal once it's in. All right, let's see if we're good here. The one thing about decals is every manufacturer of decals and even from one batch to the next can react a little bit different. Some of these will be ready to slide off almost the instant you put them into the water. Some you may have to let soak for half a minute or so. So I'm going to just test this to see if I'm sliding, and you can see here I am sliding very easily. So that's what we want. I'm going to slide it just a little bit off of the backing, and now I'm grabbing the backing with my tweezers and move my cup of water out of the way. Now I'm going to try and do this as much as I can in camera so you can see the process. The only hard part about decaling on the ends of the model is you have to sometimes hold things at a weird angle. I want to try and get that positioned as close as I can to where I really want it. On the end, I'm going to use a knife to also help. Adjust my light. My camera's right in my line of sight here. And while it's wet and smooth like this, it should be able to slide pretty easily. Doing this trying to be on camera is adding an extra level of difficulty for sure. All you YouTubers out there who do modeling videos, you gain extra respect when I see what you're going through here. All right, now this will stay pliable for a little while, so I have some time to make adjustments and get it straight and centered and exactly where I want it before it sets. I do have a little bit of a bubble down here at the bottom. I'll be careful of that. But I'm pretty happy with that overall. So once I've got the position where I want it, I have some decal setting solution. This is available from multiple places. This was some Walther Solvaset that just happens to be the one closest to my reach here at the Workbench. Microscale also makes this. You can mix and match. You don't necessarily have to use the brand that comes with the decals that you make, though sometimes it does help. And we're just going to brush a little bit of that on, especially down here at the bottom where I can see it peeling up. Set that there, and as that dries, we should be good to go. Now I'm going to let that sit for a little bit and harden before I start working around it, just to minimize the chance of things falling off and going awry. So while that's happening, let's lay the engine on its side here, and we'll go ahead and do some darkening. And then we put the 50-60 alongside of it here, and you'll see the before and after of what we're going for. Okay, so we're going to work on the air intakes here and at the radiator, and try and just add a little bit of depth to those. And to do that, I'm going to use black stain. This is from Vitero. This is made by Best Model Trains. Look up best. I think it's best-trains.com. It's probably on the back here. Oh, yep, no hyphen. besttrains.com. And met these folks at Springfield at the Big E show earlier this year, and got a bunch of the cases of these. And it's a great stain. Actually, it's a nice family-run business, and they make some wonderful detail castings and all sorts of other kits and great products. But since I started using these stains, I've really fallen in love with them. You could make your own black wash out of India ink and alcohol. I just like the potency of this a lot better. It's just there seems to be already the right amount of black for the wash that I'm doing. If you wanted to, you could easily thin this out further with a little bit more alcohol and dilute it further if you wanted to make a thinner wash. Typically when I make my own black washes, I keep them on the thin side, so this works really well for the thicker things. All you're going to need is the stain and a clean brush. I'm going to start off with a fairly small brush here, and that's just because I want to get into individual spots without making a big mess. If you're in a hurry, you could use a larger bristle brush and do this in one pass. If you're working in larger scales, you really can do this a lot faster because you don't have that same same issue. You've got more space to work with. But for the smaller scales, or if you're working in N scale and so forth, yeah, a small brush works great. And all we have to do is, as you can see here, I just touch it to where I want, and the stain pretty much fills in where it wants to go on its own. Try and get this a little closer to the camera so you can really see the stain in action. I don't have to paint so much as I just have to place it and flood the vents where it's going to go, and it just jumps right in. If it's not dark enough for you on the first attempt, it's not a problem at all. You can always come through and add more. Now I'm holding this up so that you can see it a little bit more clearly in the camera close up. It's nice to lay this flat on the surface of your workbench so that the wash doesn't run and stays pretty much where you're putting it and dries even, so you don't have the bottom darker than the top. The angle that works best for the camera and the angle that works best for the guy putting the stain on are very different. So it's making this a little bit more challenging than normal. This is a fairly quick process, though, when you're not trying to narrate the whole thing. And really not a bad way to spend the evening. Put on some good music or have a TV show on in the background and unwind after a long day. All right. So again, here's after, and that's still fresh. It'll dry a little bit lighter. And here's one that hasn't been done yet. So you can see what a difference that makes in terms of adding a little bit of depth to the model. And this works super well, again, in any scalar gauge. Now, oftentimes on our models for Lionel, we will, especially on the higher end models, we do mask, have this masked at the factory, and we'll paint that separately. Some of our shells are designed so that we actually have a separate piece in the back that can be put in there to make it darker. And then we have some that you can actually see through the way you would on the prototype, where you don't have to do this. But for the models where it's not already done for you, this is a quick and easy way to go. As you walk away from it a little bit, if you see spots that the stain has moved away or hasn't gotten quite as thick, again, it's very easy to just come through and add another drop and fill it in. I'm trying to keep the stain into the center of the vents and off of the areas around it. If you get some on the outside, if you make a mess, it's not the end of the world. Of course, first of all, locomotives get dirty, so if you're going to add weathering, don't even worry about it. But if you're going for still a very clean, just out of the factory look, you would still have this effect here still would work for you. So just take a small cotton swab, or again, your small brush with a little bit of clean rubbing alcohol with the stain, and go across the top and wipe it off, and you'll be good to go. The stain, as long as the stain's wet, or even just after it's dried, you can get it off very easily. If you wait overnight, it'll be a little bit more difficult. Probably won't do this entire model tonight because you get the point, and I'm sure you'd like to see things other than me washing my locomotive. But we're going to do this. Someone's asking, when are we going to see legacy HO scale? You're definitely going to see some higher end HO scale things down the road, but we will stick to two different control systems in our HO models. One will be a continuation of our Lion Chief Bluetooth control for those who want simple control, and then for our higher end product and our mid-range product, which will be dual mode between Bluetooth and conventional and whatnot, we will include DCC. DCC is already a very well established standard in the HO market, and we see no reason to fight that or try and push it in a different direction. So everything that you get from us that's will be either DCC ready or DCC equipped in the HO world. So you won't have to worry about Lionel Legacy HO. But as far as legacy quality locomotives and rolling stock, yes, stay tuned. It's still a little bit down the road. We have some more exciting HO things coming out. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be making some more announcements. We've got a lot in development right now, a lot in development. But just not quite ready to make those announcements just yet. For those who met Megan on our last couple of episodes where we were doing our kit builds together, Megan is also our project manager for the HO line, and she's been doing a lot of very fun things and has a lot of cool ideas and cool things going. So I'm very excited about what she's got on the docket. And if you didn't get a chance to watch those, by all means, definitely go back and look at the replays of those from last month as we built some of our HO kits. And as a segue, we'll be talking more about a fun kit building program coming up in just a few weeks that you can be part of. So with that, I'm going to finish off this big screen here on the radiator, and then we're going to get back to the nose and back to some detail parts. All right. Just trying to get this. All right, now I do have some paint there that it's in places I don't really want it. So I'm going to show you how I clean that up. I'm just going to take, since it's still very wet, I don't think I'm even going to need the alcohol. I'm just going to take a small paper towel and blot right here along the top edge. One more spot there. Yep, all gone. Looks like there's a little bit down here on the bottom as well. Also taken care of. And that's all there is to it. So if you can't color with inside the lines, all hope is not lost. I'm going to put the cap back on my stain before I make a big giant mess, because nothing stains better than the black. We're not talking weathering tonight, but I did do something neat with the same exact stain on the 5076 here. Good old leaky GE-8. We've got an oil leak here. This was done off the prototype photos of the unit that I found, and just some successive washes of the same black on the deck, and you get a nice little puddle there, and some easy to add some streaks running down the side. So it can be used very easily as a weathering agent as well as just a highlighting thing. We've talked about weathering washes in the past on buildings and scenery. They work just as well on locomotives and rolling stock. So some really, really cool possibilities. Don't think of these just in terms of HO scale decals. Think of this in terms of any type of model or rolling stock that you're building in any scale. This just happens to be what I had in front of me here in the workbench. All right, I'm going to slide this guy out of the way and let her continue to dry. We go back to the 5060 here. This one has its decal already in place. I've already done the darkening. The next thing I want to do here is add those grab irons. And to do those, in some cases you can find wired parts already made for the model that you're working on. Normal grab irons are a typical one of those. There are secondary suppliers who make these things. Other common parts to buy are things like are simple brass castings for horns and bells and cab visors and radio antennae and battery boxes, you name it. There's a lot of that out there. With the advent of 3D printing, the world of super detailing parts has gotten exponentially larger in the last couple of years. So for those who like to really detail models and do custom work, there's never been a better time to be in this hobby. It's kind of an interesting thing to see, because even though we live in very much a ready to run era, when I was starting out in the hobby, the idea of getting a pre-assembled building that would look like some of the buildings available today that are painted, decorated, detailed, weathered, and pretty much ready to pop right down on your layout would simply be unheard of. Same with ready-to-run locomotives and rolling stock with the level of detail that we've come to expect and enjoy today. And so that you would think that would take a lot of the urge to do actual modeling out of the hobby, but quite the contrary. The technology is available now so that we can continue to push the bounds even further to do things that wouldn't be practical by any other means. So really great time to be doing this whole thing. For the grab irons for the locomotive, I'm going to be making these myself. Because it's just wire. It's just bent wire. And there might be a commercial wire that's just the right size for this NHO. I didn't even bother to go out and look. I have wire, I have tweezers and pliers. I can make my own grab irons any size or shape I want. And I'm going to show you all how to do very much the same here. It's a very simple process. And again, this works in any scale. I am using let's see, what is this here? 0.20 millimeter diameter wire. It's fine. It might even be a little bit finer than what's on the model currently. But it's pretty close. And once I put a little bit of paint on there, it will work. If you don't have anything this fine, you can use something a little bit thicker. The 5076 got slightly thicker grab irons because I had it on hand, and also, quite frankly, it was easier for me to see. My eyes are apparently not what they used to be. But knowing that obviously I've got several of these things to make, the first thing that I did was make a very complicated jig to get them all bent to the same shape and size. And this is nothing more than a couple of pieces of scrap styrene. I cut the base plate to the size, height, and width that I wanted for the grab iron, and then added some extra pieces here to help give me something to fold against so that we could do either the left or the right grab iron with this. If you're making more than one of something, a simple jig like this is the easy way to go. I even took the time to label it with a permanent marker that turned out to be not so permanent. So when this project's over, I'll put this in a bin so I can find it later and know where to go with it. So we'll take some of our wire here and just start off by fastening this out. You're going to want to be a little bit long with it because you're going to have some tails that'll go into the model. Hopefully you can see this. Again, it's small and may not show up as well on camera as I would like, but we're going to lay it against one side of the jig, bend the wire with a 90-degree. I can get it on there. And then bend the wire down at that end. And I did that upside down because I don't have my bend. Make sure it's the right spot. Bend the wire down at that end. All right. Let me grab my nippers here. And I've got some long tails on this. Let me cut the most offensive one off first. Get all that out of the way. I cannot tell you how many of these things are on the carpet right now below my workbench from trying to do the first unit. There are quite a few, probably enough to do at least a dozen -8s, but that's how it goes sometimes. And then we can cut this tail off a little bit too. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail so that we have something to put into the model. And I'm going to make one a little longer than the other, so I'm not trying to feed them both in at the same time. All right, I have an extra bend here that I don't really like. Okay, so once we're happy, which I'm pretty close to happy on this one, more of a bend there. The next part, and this is the most difficult part of the night, and this is the part where I've got to be very careful not to say things that shouldn't be said on camera. We've got to put these into the holes, which I've already actually pre-drilled on this one, but didn't talk about that. So let's talk about how you install a wire part. You're going to need a very simple tool, a pin vise. It's just a small handheld drill with a very small bit. These bits come in a variety of sizes. The smallest ones that you can get are 0.08 millimeters, a 0.080 drill bit. I am using we're also going to number 80 drill bit. I've stepped this up a little bit, and I'm using a number 79, or sorry, 78. What I found was using a number 80, which is actually the right size for this gauge of wire. It slipped in very nice on a scrap piece of template. But once I tried to translate that onto the model, holding things where I needed like 2 extra sets of hands, it just got a bit much. So I'm making the holes a little bit bigger than they need to be. But once we put a dab of glue, or even still, if it's tight enough, might not even need to glue it, just a little bit of paint, that paint will help secure everything in. So it's okay to have a little bit of looseness in there. The wire is so fine and flexible that any resistance in the hole, and it tends to just bind and bend and not go in. So it's okay to make the hole a little bit bigger than you think you need. For the top part of this, I'm going to use the original holes that were there for the grab iron that was removed, and so they're still in there. And then locating the other holes is a matter of looking at prototype photos for the reference off camera here, finding the location, which on these happens to really be right about where the bottom white corner is of that labor management decal, so it's pretty easy to spot. Get your drill bit perpendicular to the side of the model and twist and drill. You want to go nice and slow and with an even pressure with these, especially with the fine bits. You will break drill bits. It's a fact of life. You can order replacements. You can order them. What a lot of people will do is they'll get a small starter set that gives you all the bits from number 61 down to 80. Those are the ones you're going to use a lot in your modeling. But then you can go to Micromark or to the tool dealers at the train shows and so forth, and you can buy little containers of bits for about for a few dollars, but probably a little bit more now, maybe $5 to $10, depending on the number of bits that come in there, of all the same size. And so I just keep a bunch of these in my workbench. They're numbered by number. Very easy. The only hard part is you got to remember to put the bit back in the correct box when you're done, because surprisingly, the naked eye, a number 78 and a number 80 drill bit don't look that much different. So it's always good to keep some organization, put things back. Otherwise, you'll be like me and have a big drawer sort of that looks like about right drill bits that you go to from time to time as well when it's not quite so critical. So I've already put the holes in here. Hopefully I can find them with my vision here at the end of the day. Yep. Again, we've got one right there. I'm going to just found the hole. I'm going to drill again just to ream it out. You can see that it goes right on in there, nice and easy. So I've got a hole there, and I've got a hole right there. So I know where this needs to wind up. Now I've got my grab iron. As I mentioned, there's 2 tails on this where it will go into the body. The one here at the bottom, I left a little bit longer than the one at the top. If you make them the same size, and if you get commercially made grab irons, usually they are the same size. It's nice sometimes to trim one a little bit shorter, because it's just easier to line the holes up one at a time than to try and get them both at once, especially on a odd shaped piece like this. If you're doing a caboose, cabooses have those great curved grab irons at the end. That's a part you can get very easily in pretty much every scale from a variety of manufacturers if you don't want to try bending your own for something like that. All right, now I've got to work around the handrails. I could take the handrails off of this, and it would make my job probably a lot easier. I'm worried that I might knock more loose than I care to. Let's try this one time without taking those off, and if that fails me, we'll yeah, let's just do it. So to remove these, I'm going to use my knife. I'm not going to just cut through. These are all inserted in tabs. I'm just going to try and get behind the detail part and press and see if I can get that to pop out. There may be a little bit of adhesive on these. More than likely, they're also just being held in by paint, as you can see there. If I get in behind it, it does tend to want to pop right out without much fight, and that's good. This is a good example of why sometimes it's nice to start with a kit instead of something that's already pre-built, because you just simply don't put the parts on that are going to be in your way until you've got the parts behind them in place. But that's not the subject of tonight's talk. Move our tweezers. Different set of tweezers with a little more grip. I'm trying a variety of tools here in ways. It looks like these end two posts have a little bit more adhesive on them than the center two. Trying to do this with as little force as possible, because I'd rather be able to put a peg back in a hole when I'm done than have to re-glue something. These are going to be a part that is delicate, to say the least, once it's been removed and put back. So now I found the right task here. 2 more to go. Part of the challenge here is that to get the angle again right for you all to see it, I've got to be almost working away from myself. Let's try this. See if that works better for you to see. This one's real stubborn. Remember that part about Ryan saying things that he shouldn't say on the camera? Yep. Just broke that one. But that's okay. A little glue will solve that. There we go. Okay. That was an adventure. Lost about 10 of you in the process, but the reward is now we get to struggle in reverse, putting this grab iron back in place. we'll probably do one side of this tonight and then wrap up with some fun announcements before we do and I'll do the second one off camera. So I can say whatever I want. Right. Some thicker tweezers. Okay, get the bottom installed. Now, trying to keep that in place. Grr. Let's try that again. Not on camera at all there, am I? Okay. Bottom goes in. Slide this up to about the right position. Find the top. And we'll get that in the hole as well. There. I probably should have a magnifier on for this, and it would be a lot easier. But it looks like I've got it. Okay. So we've got the grab iron on and in position. I'll make a final adjustment once I get that there, and then put a little paint on that, and it'll seal itself into place. Oh, or I just knocked it back out. But at any rate, I think you get the idea. See, we've got a few else on here. We've got Harry on. Harry's probably laughing at me struggling with these little tiny HO models. He's done this a million times in O gauge and great at it. We've got a lot of you on here and talking about HO and whatnot. Someone asked about the new catalog coming out in July. Right now, we're on schedule for, I believe it's about the 15th of the month. So right around mid-month, we'll have C2 coming out. But before we get into any of that stuff, that's all down the road. I want to talk about an exciting event that we have coming up here in about 2 weeks or so, a little over 2 weeks at the Concord Mills Mall. We're getting about to the end of season 2 here for Workbench Wednesday. We're going to take a little bit of a hiatus over the summer, focus on getting the catalog out and all the news and everything that comes out around that. We know this is the time of year when a lot of people aren't sitting at the workbench; they're out enjoying the nice weather and so forth. But we've got a fun event coming up to sort of wrap up the season, and this came out of the mind of Megan over the last few weeks as we were building kits together here from our last series. And so we're going to be doing a live Workbench Wednesday event in our Concord Mills Mall. And you all are invited to join. If you are in the area, we invite you to come and join in person. If you're not in the area, we will be, of course, live streaming the event from our retail store here on our YouTube and Facebook channels, so you can watch us build along. And the plan is, if you register for the event in person, there's a $30 registration fee that includes your kit. It also will include the modeling time. I'll be there to help out. Megan will be there. We've got a few other modelers on staff who are going to be around and guests to talk about how to enhance things. If you've never built a kit before, it's a great way to learn. If you have built kits before, just want to try some new skills, it's great. And frankly, if you want to just have a fun night and meet a bunch of us at Lionel, have an event for about the cost of the kit, and get a few little freebies to go along with it. It's a lot of fun for that too. So we'll hope that we get a bunch of you out there. We have 20 slots available. So you'll want to call and make your reservations. To sign up, you can either stop by our retail store in person. It's at the Concord Mills Mall on Concord Mills Boulevard, right off I-85, just north of Charlotte. Really easy to get to. Or you can call the 1-800 number you see there on the screen, 1-800-454-6635. They'll get you registered. They'll ask you which one of the kits you'd like and which scale. You don't need to bring any tools with you, though. If you have a small arsenal of modeling tools or your favorite X-Acto knife or 1-2-3 block that you just love to work with, by all means, you're welcome to bring that too. But we will have all the basics that you need, including a selection of paints and brushes and glues and so forth. So you don't have to lug your whole workbench with you. We'll have supplies there. Choose your kits, and we'll be building from 6. Events will start at 6:30. We'll work to about 8:30 and have things streamed live. If you have questions, it's a great time to ask. Build along with us. Megan and I will have some of our own models and kits on display so you can get some inspiration or just see some of the other modeling that we've done, and hope that we'll get you all to come out and enjoy. And if you're not in the Charlotte Concord area on June 15th, well, that's okay too. You can follow along on the live stream here with us on Workbench Wednesday. So that'll be our wrap up for the season event on June 15th. Don't worry, there is plenty more social media content. Dave and I are working on a Demos with Dave special. You'll see advertisements for that coming up. Obviously, it won't be this coming Monday with Memorial Day, but shortly right after that, we'll be talking about the new sound recordings for Strasbourg 90, and you'll get to hear some of the newly recorded sounds for the first time. We were playing with that this week, and it sounds great. So for those of you who've been following along for a while, you know that's been one of my pet projects for a long time. So I'm excited to see that come to the forefront. And I know a lot of you are super excited about it as well. So you'll get a first listen to 90 on the upcoming Demos with Dave. We've also gotten a lot of new samples into the office, EP engineering prototypes, deco samples, some more fun sound things. I'm pushing Dave to let us do the reindeer and horse car, Vision Reindeer and Vision Horse Car from the latest catalog in the demo as well. I had no idea what a reindeer sounded like until we started doing the reindeer car. They are some funny sounding creatures, and I think you guys will have a lot of fun with those cars if you've ordered those for your layout. So lots of great demos coming up over the next couple of weeks and month or so. And then, as I hinted to earlier, we're less than 2 months out at this point from Volume 2 hitting the air. So you'll be seeing, of course, nonstop Lionel social media buzz for that through the second half of July. Greatly looking forward to all of that. So with that, I'm going to wrap up for the night. I want to thank everybody for joining in as I get to spend some time at the Workbench and enjoy. Harry asked if we have kits to mail out that won't be able to get down there. Yes, we'll be building the stock Lionel kits. So you can absolutely pick a kit of your own if you can't come and join us with there. If you want to build the same kit, you can certainly do that. We've got some of our HO and O gauge kits for those who are coming. Highly encourage you, go visit the hobby shop near you, whether that's Hennings or anywhere else in the country, and pick up a kit and work along with us at home and join in on the fun. And we'll be doing our best to also check in on comments and questions online to make it as interactive as possible for all of you. So really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great. And I think those who can come are going to have a great time, and those who join in should have a lot of fun as well. I've got one more question on here as I'm catching back up here from putting the banners up. And that is, your scratch building, some HO buildings, how tall and wide should the doors and windows be to be on scale? Great question. And it doesn't matter if it's HO or O or N or Z. Doors and windows and things like that are an important detail that you want to get right for everything to sort of have that right look. One of the things that I've found that actually can be sometimes kind of frustrating is different kits take a slightly different look at that, because not all windows and doors are the same size. Um, but if you want to, so it also depends on what type of building you're building. An industrial building, a commercial building is probably going to have taller doors than residential. Things have also changed over the years. What are common building standards? So do a little bit of research for the prototype that you're doing first. But a door or a window is a pretty good way to scale a building if you don't have detailed drawings. If you want to assume an average height of a door being, let's say, around 7 foot, then you can use that measurement on a photograph and sort of extrapolate from there to get overall dimensions of the building. A scale ruler, which I think somebody mentioned in the comments already, is a must-have for this. I should have one around here someplace, but it's buried under my laptop, I think, right now to pull it out and show you. And you can get these in every scale that are marked by the foot, and even down to inches. And it's just like using a regular ruler, but everything is already, all the math is already done for you. For rough measurements in HO, an eighth of an inch is going to get you pretty close. An eighth of an inch to a foot equals a foot is going to get you close. It's not spot on, but it's going to get you in the ballpark. In O gauge, quarter inch to the foot, 1 to 48 is a pretty easy one to do. But HO is not really quite half of O, so it doesn't quite work. But if you're just guesstimating something, and it doesn't have to be critical for dimensions, I usually use a rough eighth of an inch to the foot as a means in HO to at least get me in the ballpark for what I'm going to need in terms of lengths of materials and so forth. You can also find commercial castings available. There are a variety of manufacturers that produce these as white metal or plastic parts in different scales. Grant Line, Tichy, there are several of them out there. If you go onto the internets and search for scale model details, windows, doors, etc., you'll find a whole world of these things out there, and it makes it really easy to add those in. So if you don't want to scratch build every window and every door, you can use commercial castings for some of that and work from there. It also works for stairs and railings and banisters and roof details and so forth. So whether you're building from scratch or building, enhancing a commercial kit or built up structure, there's lots of that out there, and a way to give you a head start. And once you've got a few of them to scale with, then it's easy to go from there. So Drew, good luck with that. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. And as mentioned, June 15th at our retail store will be our next Workbench Wednesday event. We'll be live. We're about to kick off the traditional summer season with Memorial Day, with the upcoming weekend. I want to wish everybody a safe and happy summer, and not overlook the true meaning of this upcoming weekend, and give a special thank you out there to everyone who is serving and has served, and has, especially those who've paid the ultimate sacrifices for us to be able to enjoy the freedoms that we do enjoy in this country. So that's don't lose the spirit of the day as you're enjoying what I hope is the start of a wonderful summer for all of you. With that said, we will see you in a few weeks, hopefully at the mall or online. Stay tuned to Lionel social media for all the latest and greatest through the summer months, and have a great season. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you down the rails.